Welcome to Business Reporter's Best of British Business campaign. I'm Rachel Hicks. Being just profitable no longer cuts it. Today, companies the world over have to show that they're delivering value not only to their customers and shareholders, but also to society. Through brands such as Ariel, Gillette, Always and Pampers, Procter & Gamble provides solutions to people's needs all over the world. Acting through both its products and company-wide activities, they have a whole raft of initiatives which make it a force for good in society locally and globally. We're going to hear more about that now from Tom Moody, Vice President and General Manager of Procter & Gamble, Northern Europe. Now, we all know that Procter & Gamble is a global company, but what I didn't realise is that it hails from these islands. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
It does. It was formed by an Englishman and an Irishman. They had different types of businesses, so one made soap and one made candles, but they came together to form a business. And the business was on the philosophy of making the best possible products that they could, but also on the philosophy of trying to do good in society as you went along, so trying to behave in a principled way as you went along. And out of that has been born a reasonably large consumer goods business. So in the UK, we operate about 35 different brands covering all sorts of different category areas, from hair care to shaving to washing detergents. And to give you a kind of scale for it, it sells about 14 items per second. When you think back to the founders, that philosophy of making the best possible products and behaving in a principled way, now we articulate it as being a force for good and a force for growth. So it's great to see that kind of founding principle enduring.
So you talk about a force for good and a force for growth, but how do you reconcile those two themes in a world with only finite resources?
It's funny, there's this big perception, I think, in society that it's a kind of A or a B, it's an or choice, where in reality it should be an and choice. If I think about our different stakeholders, so one of our most important stakeholders is the people who use our products. Internally, we talk about the consumer is the boss. And the consumer expects you to make great products, but the consumer also expects you to behave in a way that's responsible to the environment, behave in a responsible way with suppliers, with your own employees. They expect you to reconcile those two things. And in fact, all of you stakeholders do. Investors definitely expect it, and increasingly so. Retailers would really, really push, particularly in the UK, to make sure you were doing a good job on sustainability. And even employees are perhaps the loudest voice that we have. So I think all those stakeholders expect you to do both. And I like doing both. It's interesting and it's the right thing to do.
We'll come to the environmental aspect later, but if we talk about good for consumers, it's a taken, it's a given surely that is what you will do. So tell me a little bit more about what it is that you are doing that's good for consumers, that's beyond what we would expect.
I think good for consumers is maybe an understatement. We are unashamedly obsessed by making better products. I'll give you an example of our obsession. We have a centre in Reading where we develop Gillette products for the globe. And every day people come into that centre and they shave in front of a one-way mirror. Now you might say, hang on, surely by now you've got the hang of this thing. But our philosophy is that those products can be made better and better and better. And so we watch them shaving and refine the products in all sorts of different ways. Now the obvious one is, the blades on the front would be sharp, but other things are really important. So for example, if you have multiple blades, it's really important they never touch, because if they touch, you pinch the skin and that hurts. Other things that are important are things like how you come over the ridgeline. But as you come over the chin area there, making a razor stay in contact with the skin is quite difficult to do. The best thing they ever discovered in Reading was the piece of the face that the man misses the most often, which is actually just underneath the nose there. Never looks good when you leave it. But that's why if you take a Gillette razor, it has the blades on the front, but it also has a blade on the back. And that one allows the man to get just underneath his nose and shave it.
Okay, so we've talked about good for consumers. What about good for society? In what way does P&G give back to society or consider societal issues?
We are a company that makes stuff, and we make a small amount of difference in the world as we do that. But as you lead a business, I think you have opportunities to do small amounts of good as you go along. And there are often things which you come across as you go through the course of the business. As an example, we have a scientist up in Newcastle who was meant to be making a detergent, so a washing powder. And in the course of experimenting with different technologies, he realised that he could transform a bucket of mucky water and turn it into safe, drinkable water. And so he said, well, that's, as well as being interesting on the level of the washing detergent, is interesting on a societal level. So we have a not-for-profit business, it's this one, and we distribute sachets into villages across Africa for people who haven't got access to safe drinking water. And this thing in the space of half an hour can transform river water with cow poo into it, into water that's safe for your children or my children to drink, which is an amazing thing that you can give to society. And we run it as a not-for-profit. A final example is we give a lot of product to charity. And there's a charity we work with called In Kind Direct. And the way it works is, in the UK, there are perhaps 6,000 amazing grassroots charities. We couldn't possibly work with each and every one of them. But In Kind Direct know that sector incredibly well. So we give product to them and they distribute it to different charities and to people who really need it. And in the course of my work with them, I've been to a homeless shelter and I've watched a guy who was, shaving a very long beard. And I looked at him and thought, okay, yes, you're removing facial hair, but you're also restoring dignity to this person. And I think these things are small acts that we can do that make a difference in the world.
Children, developing countries, they're kind of low-hanging fruit by which to do good. What about tackling the harder issues, perhaps here in Britain?
There are lots of different issues in Britain. I mean, if you look at the number of people who are being touched by charity in Britain, it's an increasing number, and we can make a real difference there. But it's not just in, for example, underprivileged areas that you can make a difference. Near our office in Weybridge, there's a neonatal unit. And in the UK, if a child is born prematurely, and 1 in 13 kids are born prematurely, they end up in an incubator. And while they're in that incubator, they need to do a lot of growing and not be interrupted while they're doing the growing. We realised in the course of our work that one of the challenges is a nappy that actually fits a child that's that small. So we have a nappy that we make for premature babies. And again, this isn't a business. Thank goodness it isn't a business. If it was a business, that would be even more worrying. But we give these away to neonatal units in the UK. And our people are so proud and passionate of the work that they do in that space.
And in the workplace, when it comes to equality and inclusion, how is Procter & Gamble dealing with the issues that men and women across the board face in that area?
Well, we're doing a lot and we've got a lot more to do. Again, it's about taking opportunities which are near to you. So in recruitment, there's a lot that we've changed to try and improve equality and inclusion. An example, I have a great mum in my organisation who had an autistic child. And so she said, look, the recruitment process that you're using doesn't work for an autistic child, but they have amazing things to give you. It's amazing. You watch them code. It's fantastic to see. And so we redesigned a recruitment process. We redesigned an onboarding process that would feel comfortable to them. We used to only recruit people straight out of university, but that excludes 50% of society who don't go to university. So we've just put apprenticeship programs in. Advertising is really big too. We're one of the biggest advertisers in the UK, but every time we put a 30-second film out, we're shaping people's perceptions, again in very, very small ways. But it's important that when we show somebody cleaning a floor, as often as not, it's a man. When we show somebody changing a nappy, as often as not, it's a man. Or when we show hair, we show diverse types of hair. There's an amazing campaign on Pantene right now called My Hair Won't Be Silenced, with big afro hair. And every time I see it at home, I'm really proud of that advertising.
What is P&G doing to reach net zero and give back to the environment?
We've got a set of goals that we're working against. So our goal is to be net zero by 2040. We've got interim goals for 2030 because, of course, it's important to make progress fast, not all at the end of it. We also publish everything that we're doing in the space, and then we partner with lots of different people where we need to work with them to develop technologies to solve the problems that we're all facing. Maybe the informal answer would be what it really feels like when you're running a business and trying to get there. You look at every brand area and figure out how you can make progress as fast as possible. On Gillette that we were talking about earlier, we used to sell every razor in the UK in plastic packaging. Now we did that for a reason. We did it because it protects it as it goes through quite a bumpy and lumpy supply chain. So what we had to do is engineer how you get that into cardboard packaging. We actually borrowed technology from the cartons which are used on eggs, and now similar technology is used on Gillette.
You've talked about all the brands that you have in your range. Which of those brands is the most challenging when it comes to reaching net zero, and why?
Well, it's not always in your direct control. So sometimes you need to partner with, for example, local authorities. An example would be some of our products are distributed still in a plastic film packaging. Now the plastic film can be the best way environmentally to get that through a supply chain, but then we need local authorities to do curbside collection of plastic films such that they end up recycled. Right now you see the grocers in the UK will actually accept plastic packaging back from consumers, but that's not really the ideal solution. Unless it's happening at a curbside, it's not as effective.
Tom Moody, General Manager and Vice President for Procter & Gamble, Northern Europe.